Welcome to the North Shore of Lake Superior. Now I'm sure you guys have seen where people go on the South Shore and they find the layers of black sand and they find pretty good gold. Well, the question is there any gold to be found on the North Shore? Now I've never seen anybody panning or mining on the North Shore, and maybe that's for good reason, but we're gonna look around today. Now one of the first things you'll notice about the North Shore is there's no sand, no layers of black sand to be found. It's all rocks everywhere. Now where you do find sand, this is about as good as you're gonna get. It's really coarse, just fine lithic fragments.
What does that mean?
Pieces of rock. But I'm gonna pan that and see what we can find. You can see this is what constitutes as sand on the North Shore. Just fine pieces of rock. Now there's a piece in there that kind of looks golden in color. I'm gonna take another pan. I'm gonna make sure my pan is super clean because it's possible that there was a little bit of contamination from the last time I was prospecting. You gotta make sure your pan is clean before you come to a new area. And it's a really silvery speck. It looks really weird. So right there, that looks very silver, and it's a heavy piece of something. And there's also another piece right there. Now north of here, I do know there were silver mines. So it's possible maybe that it's like a silver, I don't know. Now it can be kind of tricky to find a spot to try this on the North Shore because you can't pan in a state park and you can't pan on private land unless you have permission. And that's pretty much the whole North Shore. But I think I found a spot here, a public land, where it's okay to pan. At least I'm gonna say it's okay.
Not to worry, I have a permit.
This just says I can do what I want.
It may or may not be DOT land, which I think is okay. Now I'm gonna classify a little bit bigger sample and speed pan that down, get a real clear idea what we're dealing with. All right, there's about a half bucket of material. I'm gonna speed pan that down and see what we got. This pan is scrubbed clean, no contaminants, so if there is anything of interest in that bucket, it came from that bucket.
Are you sure?
Now panning in the Lake Superior waves is kind of a pain, so I'm gonna set up this tote, fill it with water, and kind of make a panning station right here. Okay, that's about 4 pans back to back. We'll see what's in it. There is a little bit of black sand mixed in there. Some fine-grained, dense material. Wow. There's some legit gold in there. That is a legitimate piece of gold. And there's another piece right there. And then alongside it, you can see there's some of those silver pieces as well. So there's gold, there's a silver piece. I don't know what that is. But sure enough, that answers that question. There is gold on the North Shore. Let's see if we can get a few more flakes. Okay, so now we got a full bucket classified, so I'll speed pan that down and see what we got. One of the drawbacks of panning in a tote, it gets full of tailings really fast. Here's the last pan in that 5-gallon bucket. And I have to say, it is kind of a pain panning in this tote because it gets so full of tailings so fast, it's kind of hard to work the pan. So I don't know if this is better than fighting the Lake Superior waves or not. Again, like there is a fair amount of dense material left behind there. It's not easy to get rid of this. So the fact that I just went through a whole 5-gallon bucket and didn't find one additional speck is a little bit worrisome. I know I had the pan clean, but now I'm thinking I didn't clean the shovel off. Maybe a speck of gold got stuck on the clay in the shovel or something like that. And it's contamination from the last time I went panning. So I'm gonna have to go through a little bit more material to figure this out. So I scrubbed this shovel clean, but I really don't think that's the issue because the last place I went, I prospected all day long and didn't find a single speck. So I really don't think that the shovel was carrying anything, but I'm gonna have to dig a few more buckets just to make sure. But this shovel is clean as can be now for sure. Okay, so I got another half a bucket classified, and I'll run that through. This time I'm just gonna pan in the lake and see how that goes. Okay, so there's half a bucket pan down. The panning in the lake is a little more chaotic, but you can kind of time it and I think it's okay. So I think there's one really tiny speck in there. So that's another one of those silvery specks. I don't see any gold in this one. I'm really confused now. I'm gonna do some more detective work off camera, get this problem
solved. The problem's not solved. The problem's...
Meanwhile, why is it that the North Shore is all rocks, whereas the South Shore has nice sandy beaches? Well, a lot of it has to do with the geology. Up here on the north, it's all hard, igneous and metamorphic geology, and the glaciers scraped all of that clean. They scraped all this till and everything and brought it south. Whereas on the South Shore, there's a lot more sedimentary sandstone and a lot more of that till buildup. So you have more sediments there, whereas up north, you're just left with rocks. So I went up with my wife to do some sightseeing in Ontario, but I'm back at the beach. I've scrubbed my bucket, I've scrubbed my pan, I've scrubbed my classifier, I've scrubbed my shovel. There should be no contaminants anywhere. I found a nice good spot of sand here. I'm gonna take some pans, and if we find gold here, I know it's coming from here. I know it's not contamination. So let's see what we get. Waves are a bit bigger today. So that was about 3.5 pans, no gold, but there's less dense material, less black sand. So I might need to go back exactly where I was to test this out. Now one thing with all this loose gravel here, I'm worried that any dense material like gold is just gonna be rattled and sink deeper and deeper and deeper. So I feel like to get anything, I'm gonna have to dig down lower, much lower. But I found this little area here where there's like a river outlet. There's no water coming out now, but there's a lot of bedrock here, and there's a little dish right here. So if this is a place where things are settling, if there's gold here, it probably would have settled upon the bedrock there. Maybe. But that's the next spot I'm gonna test.
Nothing.
So in the bank, it kind of records a record of a past lake level. You can see all the rocks are just laid down the same way they are on the lake shore there. And then as you kind of come down, you see more sand depositing. And then right here is like a zone where there's a lot of fines. Now I'm thinking that maybe in this past lake level, the sand was kind of wiggling down, shifting down, and then accumulated here. I'm not allowed to dig in the bank. Can't dig in the bank. But I'm gonna just take a small sample of the bank. Not dig, sample.
Loophole!
Just fell right in the pan. Look at that. Nothing in the sample. So I'm back at the exact spot that I found those specks before. And I am right down to bedrock. You see, it's very hard to dig. And not only that, I'm taking off angular pieces of the bedrock, and some of that has clay. So what I'm doing is I'm making sure I'm taking these clay-coated angular pieces and I'm actually washing them off. Angular pieces, they break off, and inside there's gravel, but also a little bit of clay. So if there's gold moving around in this beach, I'm sure it's getting trapped there. I'm sure. Like I'm sure of anything. I don't know anything. I'm just digging in the dirt. Not quite a full bucket, but full enough. We can tell from that, for sure. So this is that whole 5-gallon bucket of material, all panned down. I already looked through this, and I don't see any gold. So unfortunately, I think those first two specks were just contamination. Either in the bucket or the classifier or the pan, the shovel, I don't know what it was. But if that gold came from here, I surely would have been finding more pieces, more than just those two. So maybe there is no gold on the North Shore. At least not that I can find. Now on a previous trip here, I did search some of the rivers that enter into the lake. I went upstream, did my best to look for gold. I couldn't find any then either. So maybe there's a reason why you never see people panning or looking for gold on the North Shore. They do look for agates. I did find one of those today. So I'm really trying a good faith effort to try different spots and really get a good sampling. I'm sampling between Grand Marais and Grand Portage, so way up in northern Minnesota. This is as far north as I can go, because just a little ways that way is the Indian Reservation, and I know I'm not allowed to pan there, and I'm not going to test it. But I'll just do a little more testing. There's a little bit of sand right here, so I'm going to try it. Again, just really coarse sand and pea gravel. We'll see if there's flour gold. There's a lot more of these really silvery specks. I don't know what that is. Maybe it is silver, but I don't know what silver really looks like in the pan. I'm gonna snuffer it all up and bring it home. Gotta see what this is. Well, let's take this home and take a closer look. Okay, we're back at headquarters, and let's do a snuffer dump and take a closer look at what we got. So it's all panned down, and honestly, some of those silvery specks kind of look golden. So there's those pieces. Some of them look silver, and honestly, some of them look like pieces of gold. There's those two bigger ones that I thought were contamination. But to be honest, they look a lot like the smaller ones, just bigger. I've heard that there's something called electrum. It's like a gold-silver amalgam that's in Minnesota. I don't know much about that. One of my viewers just commented and said that that was a thing. I really haven't looked into that much, but you can tell me what you think this stuff is. That's what we got. So originally I was thinking those bigger pieces of gold were contamination because I found them early on and I didn't find any more pieces like that afterward, which is weird. And I figured they likely came from my classifier because there's a lot of pieces of frayed plastic here. Maybe some pieces of gold got stuck in there and ended up in the bucket when I went back to classifying. Maybe, I don't know. But those smaller pieces, the things I was calling silver, they look very much the same. And in this light here, they look kind of gold, just really small. You guys can tell me what you think and educate me. A lot of you guys know more than I do, that's for sure. Some of you don't, but this was found near Grand Marais and north, up that part of the North Shore. But whatever it is we got here, it was a lot of fun to get it. Thanks for watching. Please let me know what you think. Come on back for the next episode. Bye-bye.